The quietest parts of you didn't come from nowhere. The way you pause before speaking. The way your chest tightens when someone looks too long. The way you replay conversations in your head, wishing you'd said less or more. You call it shyness. You call it being an introvert, but deep down, you've always known it feels like something else. Something older. Why do you hesitate before you speak? Why does your heart race when someone new starts a conversation? Why does small talk feel like standing on thin ice? Maybe it's because silence once kept you safe. Introversion isn't always a personality. It can be a protection, a reflex learned in rooms where being seen felt dangerous, where words were met with sighs, criticism or quiet disappointment. You didn't choose silence. You learned it. And your nervous system still remembers why. So before we talk about introversion as a label, let's trace where that quiet began. You weren't always quiet. Once there was a version of you who spoke without hesitation, who laughed too loud, interrupted mid-sentence out of excitement, who believed every thought was worth sharing. That child was pure expression. They sang to fill the silence. They spoke before thinking. They reached for connection the way a sunflower reaches for light. And then, something shifted. It rarely happens in one moment. It's a collection of small ones. The dinner table where everyone laughed, not with you but at you. The classroom where your voice cracked, and someone rolled their eyes. The parent who sighed, "Stop being dramatic." Or worse, "Don't make everything about you." You didn't understand their words, but your body did. It learned that sound could equal shame, that speaking could lead to rejection. And in the economy of childhood, belonging is survival. So you adapted. You traded honesty for harmony. You stopped showing the messy parts, the anger, the tears, the joy that felt too big. You learned to read the room before you spoke, to measure tone, to predict mood, to filter every sentence through safety. Psychologists call this adaptive inhibition, the brain's quiet decision to hold back in unsafe environments. It's not rebellion, it's protection. When you couldn't control the people around you, you learned to control yourself. And it worked. The scolding stopped. The tension softened. The grown-ups called you so mature for your age. But something inside you began to dim. Each unspoken word became another brick in the wall of silence you didn't know you were building. Expression turned into observation. Voice turned into vigilance. And without realizing it, the world started knowing you as the quiet one, the thoughtful one, the calm one. But beneath that calm was calculation, a nervous system that never stopped scanning for permission to exist. That's how silence became your shield. Not weakness, not personality, a strategy that once kept you safe, but now keeps you small. By the time you reached adulthood, silence wasn't just a habit, it was a home, a nervous system built around watching, waiting, and anticipating. You learned to read the air before you ever read a book. Every sigh, every tone shift, every pause between words. Your body kept score. That's what psychologists call hypervigilance, a constant scanning for emotional danger. It's what happens when your early world was unpredictable, when moods shifted like weather, and love felt like a coin toss. So now, even in calm rooms, your body doesn't fully rest. You study people like puzzles, noticing too much, thinking too long, speaking too little. You're not shy, you're strategic. Your quiet isn't emptiness, it's assessment. But hyper-awareness has a cost. It's exhausting to live in a body that never feels off duty. So you seek peace where control is easiest. Solitude. You call it alone time, but sometimes it's more like recovery. When the door closes and the world finally stops asking for your energy, your nervous system exhales for the first time all day. That's not laziness. That's regulation. Still, the exhaustion builds quietly. You go to social gatherings already rehearsing your words. You smile, you nod, you participate. But beneath every laugh there's a low hum of tension. What did they mean by that? Did I say too much? Should I have stayed home? And when it's over, the silence feels like oxygen. But it's not peace you're craving. It's the absence of threat. It's your body finally releasing the tightness it's carried since childhood. That's why so many introverts say, I need to recharge. It's not about hating people, it's about needing safety. Solitude becomes the only environment where your body believes it won't be judged, interrupted, or misunderstood. You've built a quiet life not because you fear connection, but because connection once felt like walking on glass. You don't chase attention because attention once hurt. You don't speak easily because speaking once led to loss. That's not shyness, it's vigilance. It's the mind's way of protecting the heart. And yet, beneath that caution is an ache. The wish to be known without being analyzed. To be loved without being overwhelmed. You don't hate people. You just hate feeling unsafe. Your silence was never about solitude. It was about survival. And somewhere deep down your body is still whispering the same old rule it learned long ago. Stay small, stay quiet. Stay safe. It's easy to think your quietness began with you, but silence has a lineage. Long before you ever swallowed your first emotion, someone else in your family was doing the same. Maybe your father grew up in a house where tears were an inconvenience, where softness was mocked, where anger was the only emotion allowed to breathe. Maybe your mother learned to hold her tongue, to keep the peace in rooms charged with unspoken tension. They didn't wake up one day and decide to raise you in quiet. They simply passed down the language they were taught, a language of emotional restraint, a dialect of survival. Psychologists call this intergenerational conditioning, the silent transmission of unprocessed pain. It's what happens when families inherit coping mechanisms instead of healing. Your parents didn't mean to make you cautious. They were only repeating what once kept them safe. If love in their childhood came with conditions, be polite, be strong, don't make a scene, then love in your childhood likely carried the same rules. Stop crying, be grateful, don't be so sensitive. They believed they were teaching resilience, but what you learned was repression, because in their world, emotions were dangerous. In yours, silence became currency, the price you paid to be accepted. It's a strange inheritance, isn't it? Generational silence passed down like an heirloom, polished and disguised as maturity, a pattern that feels like personality, but is really a family tradition of emotional self-erasure. And when you see it that way, the anger you once carried toward them starts to soften, because now you understand. They were children once too, children who also learned to shrink in order to be loved, children who mistook control for calm, obedience for worth. You may have inherited their quiet, but you don't have to inherit their fear. You can be the one who breaks the pattern, who speaks the words they couldn't, who feels what they numbed, who teaches love a different language. Because healing isn't rebellion, it's translation. And you, more than anyone before you, are fluent in both silence and truth. But to break it, you'll first have to understand what your silence has been protecting. Introversion isn't just who you are, it's how you learn to survive. It's the body's poetry of protection, the nervous system's quiet masterpiece. Every pause before speaking, every retreat into solitude, these were acts of intelligence once, a child's way of staying safe in a world that didn't feel safe enough to be fully seen. But what once kept you alive has slowly started to keep you small. And that's where the paradox lives. Your quietness is both a wound and a wisdom, because that same sensitivity that made you withdraw also taught you to notice the tone behind someone's words, the sadness behind their smile, the unspoken stories in a crowded room. Your sensitivity became awareness, your solitude became reflection, and your silence, though born of pain, became a form of understanding deeper than words. Psychologists call this reframing through awareness. The moment you stop calling something wrong and start calling it what it really is. Adaptation. Naming the wound gives you power over it. You begin to see that you were never broken, and that realization shifts everything. Because once you understand the purpose your silence once served, you can decide if it still deserves to stay. You don't need to abandon your quietness to heal. You only need to reclaim it, to turn it from avoidance into intention, from fear into choice. Your quiet can still be power, but this time, it doesn't have to cost your voice. Understanding your silence isn't the end of healing, it's the beginning of rewriting. Here's the part that most people don't realize. Your brain can learn safety again. It's called neuroplasticity, the science of rewiring. The same mind that learned to hold back can also learn to open slowly, gently, with compassion. Healing doesn't mean erasing your quiet. It means teaching your nervous system that expression isn't danger anymore. Start small. Whisper the truths you never got to say. Write the words you rehearsed but never spoke. Let your journal become the room that never punished your feelings. Then, when you're ready, speak one of those truths aloud, to a friend, a therapist, or even to the mirror. Every time you use your voice, your body learns a new rule. It's safe now. That's the essence of reparenting. Becoming the safety your child self never had. You offer yourself what no one else could. Patience instead of pressure. Curiosity instead of criticism. You listen to your own silence without trying to fix it. Some days you'll still retreat. That's okay. Healing isn't about forcing yourself to be louder. It's about letting yourself feel freer. Quiet can still be power, but this time it's chosen, not forced. You start to notice the difference. When you speak from fear, your voice trembles. When you speak from truth, it steadies. Not because the world is gentler, but because you are. The work isn't fast or glamorous. It's daily, almost invisible. Pausing before you shrink. Choosing expression over suppression. Telling yourself, I'm allowed to take up space. And in those small, unremarkable moments, something extraordinary happens. The body that once flinched at its own voice begins to trust it again. Every word becomes a breadcrumb leading you back home, to the self that existed before fear rewrote your personality. Every time you speak, your body learns safety again. You are not broken. You are just protecting yourself the only way you knew how. For years your silence was a kind of prayer, a way to keep peace, to stay unseen, to survive the noise around you. But survival isn't the same as living. The old belief whispered, I must stay small to be safe. You followed it faithfully, mistaking invisibility for peace. But now you know a new truth. I can be quiet and still be free. Your stillness no longer has to be a cage. It can be a choice. Your quiet can hold power, not fear. It can carry wisdom instead of wounds. Maybe your parents made you an introvert, but you get to decide what that means now. You can let it mean withdrawal, or you can let it mean awareness. You can let it mean fear, or you can let it mean depth. And if this feels familiar, know this, you're not alone. There are millions of others learning just like you, to turn their quiet into power, to speak softly, but live loudly, in the safety they've finally created for themselves.